Hey everybody. So this week we are starting to talk about a new continent. And the new continent we're going to talk about this week is Europe. So I'm going to show you my map again with all the continents on it. And Europe is this one right here that I colored red. It's not very big, is it? It's kind of small compared to the other ones. So we've got North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. Don't forget Australia. Don't forget Antarctica. Tell me the continents, tell me the continents, tell me if you can. So Europe is the one we're going to be talking about this week. Now, Europe is a continent like Africa and Asia that's broken up into lots of different countries. And the first country we wanted to talk about in Europe is the country of Spain. Have any of you ever heard of that country before? Spain? Maybe you've even been there. Maybe you know somebody from there. And there's a book about something that happened in Spain. And it's a story you might have heard before. The story of Ferdinand. They even made a movie about Ferdinand. Did you guys see that movie about Ferdinand? That was a great movie. But it started with this book by Monroe Leaf, drawings by Robert Lawson. So this is where the story of Ferdinand came from. You're going to hear a little bit about Spain in this story. Look at the cover page. The story of Ferdinand. Once upon a time in Spain, this gives you a clue of what some parts of Spain might look like. There was a little bull, and his name was Ferdinand. All the other little bulls he lived with would run and jump and butt their heads together. But not Ferdinand. He liked to just sit quietly and smell the flowers. He had a favorite spot out in the pasture under a cork tree. It was his favorite tree, and he would just sit in its shade all day and smell the flowers. Sometimes his mother, who was a cow, would worry about him. She was afraid he would be lonesome all by himself. You can barely see him sitting under the tree. Why don't you run and play with the other little bulls and skip and butt your head, she would say. But Ferdinand would shake his head. I like it better here, where I can just sit quietly and smell the flowers. You can already kind of tell what kind of bull Ferdinand was. His mother saw that he was not lonesome, and because she was an understanding mother, even though she was a cow, she just let him just sit there and be happy. You ever just like to be by yourself? And it doesn't make you feel lonely, it's just kind of nice to be by yourself sometimes. I like doing that sometimes. As the years went by, Ferdinand grew and grew until he was very big and strong. Whoa. All the other bulls who had grown up with him in the same pasture would fight each other all day. They'd butt each other and stick each other with their horns. And what they wanted most of all was to be picked to fight at the bullfights in Madrid. Madrid is a big city in Spain. And in Spain, they did bullfighting. But not Ferdinand. He still liked to just sit quietly under the cork tree and smell the flowers. Even though he's big, he's still sitting there. One day, 5 men came in very funny hats to pick the biggest, fastest, roughest bull to fight in the bullfights in Madrid. Look at those guys. All the other bulls ran around, snorting and butting, leaping and jumping, so the men would think that they were very, very strong and fierce and pick them. But Ferdinand knew that they wouldn't pick him, and he didn't care. So he went out to his favorite cork tree to sit down. He didn't look where he was sitting, and instead of sitting on the nice cool grass in the shade, he sat on a bumblebee. Pretty sure you know what's going to happen if you sit on a bumblebee. Well, if you were a bumblebee and a bull sat on you, what would you do? You would sting him. And that's just what this bee did to Ferdinand. Look at that face. Wow, did it hurt? Ferdinand jumped up with a snort. He ran around puffing and snorting, butting and pawing the ground as if he were crazy. The 5 men saw him and they all shouted with joy. Here was the largest and fiercest bull of all, just the one for the bullfights in Madrid. Oh boy, so they thought he was a fighter because he was going crazy. So they took him away for the bullfight day in a cart. What a day it was. Flags were flying. Bands were playing. And all the lovely ladies had flowers in their hair. That's something the ladies do in Spain, wear flowers in their hair. They had a parade into the bull ring. First came the banderillos with long, sharp pins with ribbons on them to stick in the bull and make him mad. That's those guys. Next came the picadores, who rode skinny horses, and they had long spears to stick in the bull that made him even madder. Then came the matador, the proudest of all. He thought he was very handsome, and he bowed to the ladies. He had a red cape and a sword and was supposed to stick the bull last of all. Then came the bull, and you know who that was, don't you? Ferdinand. Poor Ferdinand. They called him Ferdinand the Fierce, and all the banderillos were afraid of him, and the picadores were afraid of him, and the matador was scared stiff. Ferdinand ran into the middle of the ring, and everyone shouted and clapped because they thought he was going to fight fiercely and butt and snort and stick his horns around. Gosh, look at that. The whole stadium is packed with people. But not Ferdinand. When he got to the middle of the ring, he saw the flowers in all the lovely ladies' hair. And he just sat down quietly and smelled. Remember, that's his favorite thing to do, to sit and smell flowers. He wouldn't fight and be fierce no matter what they did. He just sat and smelled. And the banderillos were mad, and the picadores were madder, and the matador was so mad he cried because he couldn't show off with his cape and sword. What a baby. So they had to take Ferdinand home, back in the cart. And for all I know, he's sitting there still under his favorite cork tree, smelling the flowers, just quietly. He is very happy. So Ferdinand is somebody who liked to have alone time and just relax and sit and enjoy nature and smell the flowers. And this tells us a lot about what they do in Spain. One of the traditions in Spain is to do bullfighting. And that's something you could still go to Spain today and watch a bullfight. So it's pretty cool. But what I want you guys to do after hearing this story is, now that you know the story and you know about Ferdinand and what his character is like, what would be another title that would make sense for this story? A new title. And when you write your new title at the top of the page, I also want you to draw a new another cover picture that would make sense for this story. So usually the cover tells us a little bit about the main characters and maybe the important parts of the story. Like this one, this illustrator did Ferdinand smelling a flower. So what would be another picture that would be good for a cover title page of this book? Okay. All right. So I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Bye.